everybody, welcome back. I am super excited today. I have recently picked up the Not Polish X ZaneyyNails kit. This is super exciting for me. I am a big fan of Zaneyy. I follow her on Instagram and have for a while, and she's a real big inspiration for me along my nail journey. She owns 2 salons down in New Jersey, and it's just really inspiring to watch her journey. So I decided to support her, and because I love Not Polish, I did pick up her kit. So it comes with 7 colored acrylics. They are 1 ounce sizes. You can see all of them here on the screen. It comes with a 4 ounce nude acrylic, as well as a matte gel top coat, a white gel polish, a very opaque white gel polish, mind you, a acrylic brush of your choosing, the size of your choosing, and a 3D acrylic brush. Now I am starting this off using my Young Nail Speed Frosted Pink acrylic, their blue short forms, and their protein bond. And I'm going in first with that Speed Frosted Pink like I usually do. I typically really prefer to do forms over tips. It's just for me easier because that is how I learned. I learned watching all the Young Nails tutorials on YouTube. I am a DIYer. I don't have any formal training yet, but I definitely have gotten a little bit more acquainted with tips as I've gone on. I just feel like forms are easier and more of my go-to. So that's what I'm doing today, just to kind of keep it simple. I use that clear, or I guess frosted clear, to build the platform between my natural nail and the form, as well as to do a thin layer as kind of a protective layer on my natural nail. If you've seen any of my other videos, you will have seen me do this. I only do a file off method. I never do a soak off. So for me, this is the easiest way to help prevent excess damage to my natural nail, since it kind of creates a barrier, and I basically just file down my set to that clear layer, and then I can just go ahead and apply over it when I'm going in with a new set. So it helps prevent contact between my e-file and my natural nail, or at least minimizes it as much as possible. Now, once I'm done with that, I am going in with that blank check color, and I am applying this to my nail, starting from the tip and working back. I definitely feel like, for me, I try to get the apex and cuticle perfected first. So if you see that there are some areas towards the free edge of my nail that look a little sheer, don't worry. I do go back and kind of cover that up or add a little bit more product, but I feel like if I add more right out the gate, my tip ends up being too thick, and it kind of throws the balance of the rest of the nail off for me. So I prefer to kind of build my apex first and then go back with a blending bead and just kind of build up the opacity at the tip. So that's just how I do it, but do it however feels comfortable for you. I did get this acrylic kit with the acrylic brush in a size 8. I recently have really been preferring smaller brushes. I'm not really sure why. I feel like I just have a little bit more control. It does take a little bit more beads than I am typically used to, but I do find that I have more control. I like how the smaller brush just has a finer tip, so I can get a lot tighter to my cuticle area on the cuticle bead, and it just ends up being a little bit more flush. Not polished brushes are round brushes, so they are not pinched, which is also not necessarily something I am used to. So I feel like having a smaller brush just helps with that transition if you're somebody like me who kind of goes back and forth between different brush styles and sizes. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish this application of the nude. I do think that the nude color is a very universal color. It runs, I think, neutral to maybe slightly warm. I feel like it would work on a variety of skin tones because of that. If you have colors that lean too much to one side of the spectrum, I feel like that can sometimes look a little funky when you are applying on skin tones that maybe have more of like the opposite undertone. So for example, if you have somebody with like a really warm undertone and you're applying like a super cool toned color, it can sometimes just have too much of a weird contrast. So having a more neutral nude, I think, will give you a little more flexibility in who it will work for. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this like I usually do, and I'll be back to show you guys what I'm doing for the rest of this nail look. once all that acrylic is applied, filed, and shaped, I am going to go ahead and start with my design. I am using the white gel polish that comes in the kit. She didn't name this anything, so it's just the white color that comes with it. I'm using a small sponge. You can find these really on any nail supply store or Amazon, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of create an ombre design. I'm going to pull this pretty far back, almost fully to the cuticle. I do start out kind of more of like that half where a traditional ombre would be, but I start building it back as I add layers. So I just go ahead and I apply this. I dip the sponge into the product, kind of dab it off a little bit on my tile, and then I go straight into the nail. And you want to use less pressure and kind of pull off any excess product as you're getting closer to the cuticle, because that'll help give you more of that fade. I do want most of this background to be kind of that light milky white color, which is why I'm kind of thinning it out with this method. So you'll see me kind of just apply multiple layers of this to build up that color, and I go further down as I apply. It will help to not have the cuticle area look as like opaque as the tip, because you're going to have most of the layering at the tip of your nail. And I do cure in between layers, so as I go through, I do cure for 30 seconds, mainly because you're applying such a thin layer. You don't need to worry about it not curing properly. If you are using white gel products in general and you're doing like a full opaque layer, you do want to make sure you're curing for a full 60 seconds minimum in between each layer, just because white really reflects a lot of light and can cure a little funky sometimes. But when you're doing something like this, you have such a thin layer, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go in with that matte gel top coat, and I'm going to apply that on all of the nails. Zaney's really iconic look is doing a matte nail. Typically she leaves it nude, but then she does some 3D flower designs over top, so I wanted to kind of pull from that. I am not the most proficient with 3D flowers. I really haven't practiced them a whole lot, so this is going to be a really beginner friendly version for you guys who may have not gotten into these yet and really want to start practicing. So I'll show you guys that in a second. So I'm taking that 3D brush that comes with the kit, and the colors I decided to use today were the green, orange, and yellow. So it is Bill's Golden Hour, the Old Money, as well as the hard white. And I'm just going to start off. The first flower that I'm doing is a 3-petal green, so I am going to apply that. As you apply your 3D petals, you do want to kind of apply the little dot of what you're going to use for your petal. You want to wait for it to turn a matte tone. So when you first apply it, it's going to look shiny and glossy from the monomer. You don't want to go ahead and start trying to shape it then, because it's going to be too wet. So you're not going to be able to get it to like really mold into a nice shape. So you want to wait till it's matte, and then you can go ahead and press the brush out. Once I apply the bead and I'm waiting for it to sit to turn matte, I actually wipe my brush off, clean it off, get it kind of pointy and ready for me to go in and actually start shaping it. One thing I really liked about this particular 3D brush is I felt like it held its shape really, really well. Some are not super pointy to start off with, and you kind of have to train them, but this one really is very thin at the end, and I feel like it helps you sculpt the 3D flowers really easily. So if you are somebody who does a lot of 3D sculpting, I think that this brush would be really helpful. I do kind of the same method for all of it. So once I have the 3 petals down, I do take a very small dot of a contrasting color. On this nail, I actually initially applied yellow, but I am going to change it to green later on because I didn't really like the way that that looked together. I felt like it came off a little too summery, and I want this to look a little bit more fall since we are in the fall season. But I just go ahead and apply this as I usually do. Because these nails are so small, I didn't want to overload them with flowers. Again, I'm also not the most proficient at 3D flowers, so I felt like trying to keep it a little easier by just doing like 1 or 2 flowers on my nails max. As you go through, you do again just want to make sure that you are applying the product in just small layers. You want to wait till you have the ability to kind of press and mold it where you want it to be so it doesn't doesn't start running everywhere. Another tip that I have heard but have not myself tried is applying a little bit of acetone into your monomer. I've heard that it helps it dry a little bit faster so that you don't actually have to sit there for as long waiting to sculpt the flower. I don't know if it's helpful. I don't know if it changes the integrity of the flowers at all. I've not tried it myself, so I can't speak to that, but I know a lot of people do use that method to try to cut down on the time. So just little tip if case you are trying it and you're just feeling like it's taking forever to dry. But for me, this was fine, and I prefer having a little more working time since I am a DIYer. I don't have all that technical skill because I don't practice like daily. I really just do my nails about once a week, so this helps because I do tend to need a little more time to work. But one thing I did want to say is if the kit is still up on the website on Not Polished, I will link it for you down below. As I'm editing this video, I believe it is still up. I think they are out of stock of some of the acrylic brush sizes, but you could always buy the kit with a different size and trade or exchange it maybe down the line, get the other size, because it is just the traditional Not Polished brush. It's not like a specific one like the 3D one that is specific to this kit, and they don't sell normally. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up these flowers. And then I did, as I was looking at them as I finished the set, I felt like they were looking just a little flat, and I don't know, I like this flower shape and design. It's super easy, but I also kind of felt like they looked almost like like just like children's toy type flowers, and I just really wasn't loving the way that looked. So I wanted to kind of add a little bit more dimension, and I'll show you how I did that in a little bit. But I'm just gonna go ahead and just finish these color flowers, just kind of alternating. You do want to do contrasting colors, so that was the reason I didn't really love the orange and yellow one on my pointer finger, because I felt like it didn't contrast enough. I wanted colors that really stood out against each other, so I did change the yellow center to green, and I felt like that gave me the look that I was going for. Now I did add a second flower to my pointer and my ring finger. For those flowers I only did 2 petals because I was just applying them to the corner of my nail, so I didn't have the space that I had for the other ones. I also wanted them to look slightly different to kind of give, again, a little bit more dimension. Now for my last minute dimension decision, I wanted to add a little bit of a two-toned effect so that these flowers didn't look so flat. So what I did was I took a very, very small, so even smaller than my initial petal bead, bead of a opposing color. So for the yellow, I'm going in with the orange. For the green flower, I will go in with the yellow, and this will help create that contrast. So I take that small, very wet bead, I apply it to the inner portion of the petal, I wipe my brush off to remove any excess monomer, and I take the brush and just kind of go from the inner portion of the petal to the outer portion. So right from the center and pull out. That will create that kind of ombre look. I do 2 layers of this. So I will apply 1 layer, let it dry, and then go back in to kind of build up that color. I think that this is the most beginner friendly way of doing a two-toned flower effect or 3D effect. I do see some people do a two-tone two-toned effect where they pick up both colors right at the beginning when they're doing their initial petals. I feel like that's a little bit more tricky if you are not proficient like I am. So if you are a beginner, I also feel like this method that I'm doing here allows me to be a little more precise on where each of the colors is going and where that two-toned effect is on the 3D design. But some people like that two-tone to be a little more marbly. So it just depends on what type of effect you're going for. But again, I feel like this one is the more beginner-friendly way of doing it. It's also helpful if, like myself, you weren't initially planning on doing this type of effect and you want to go back in after to just add some dimension. So this is what that practice hand looks like next to my hand, just to show you that this is what I did. I just forgot to film it since it was such a last minute decision. But yeah, that is it for this look. I am really happy with the way that it came out. So shout out to Zaneyy for getting this Not Polished collab. I'm really excited for her and can't wait to play with it even more. I think it's an overall very well-rounded kit and a good price point. It's about $150 before any discounts. So I think you get quite a lot for what you're paying, and it's all not polished quality, so it's really good. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down below. If you tried this kit, what are your thoughts on it? Thumbs this video up if you did. Comment what else you would like to see from me in the future, as well as subscribe to my channel so you can check out any future videos. Other than that, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, everybody.